Hey guys, what is going on? It is Brooke, or the Undead DM, back at it again with another homebrew review for you today. And in this episode, we actually have a very special product here. It is known as the Shaman Class, and it is by Ross Leiser, and the layout was by Terry and Pounds, which many of you will also know as Indestructo Boy here on YouTube. Now, this class is very special because it is actually a class that I had purchased because it has a very high rating and it seems to have everything that you would want in what you would think a shaman class would need. However, upon further reading and further discussion with some peers, we discussed that it was actually kind of terrible. And when I reached out to Ross Leiser at the time to offer some advice how to fix it with some help from my peers, he just didn't want it. Thought it was perfect. Despite on his DM's guild profile that he wanted critiques. So, Ross Leiser, if you're watching this, this is everything that I wanted to say to you at the time, and how I would have improved it, and I actually did improve it in my own version under the rule that all homebrew is able to be modified to certain people's needs. It's strictly for my use only, but we're going to get into that right now. So, the Shaman class is a very unique form of fullcaster, where it is thematically based on a Native American shaman, or ancient civilizations shaman. Now, being Native American myself, this is a little bit interesting because the flavor is correct. However, mechanically, it is a little bit strange. So, it has a D8 for a fullcaster. Okay, it's pretty fine. It's fine because it's about the same as a cleric and a bard and the artificer, even though the artificer's not a fullcaster. It gets proficiency in light armor. Okay, makes sense. Simple weapons makes sense. Herbalism kit makes sense. Wisdom and charisma. Okay. And arcana, deception, insight, intimidation, persuasion, and religion. A little bit strange that a class all about connecting with nature and the spirits that guide you through your experiences and guide you through troubles doesn't have nature or survival. A little bit strange, but okay. Starting equipment doesn't matter. Multi-classing standard, you have to have at least a 13 charisma. And spell slots work differently. So you get shamanic ritual casting. So most of the shaman spellcasting abilities come directly from channeling a spirit guide. However, though this rituals you've studied commune with the spirits and repeat contact with the spirit world, you have also learned to cast a mass selection of spells on your own, without needing to channel a spirit, so see Chapter 10 for spellcasting. And before we continue, let's look at this table right quick. So you'll notice here that you get spirit guides and cantrips, and then the standard spell slots per day. What you're about to see, I'm going to read to you when we get to it very slowly to make it abundantly clear why this class does not work. So, cantrips are standard. You learn 2 cantrips, and you learn more as you level. Preparing and casting ritual spells. In the Shaman spell list, each spell of first level or higher has the ritual tag, so all Shaman spells in the spell list have the ritual tag. You can prepare a list of Shaman spells that are available for you to cast from the list, and when you do so, you choose a number of ritual spells equal to half your Shaman level rounded up, with a minimum of 2 spells. The spells must be for a level, pretty standard. For example, 5th level Shaman, you can have 4 first level, 3 second level, and 2 third level spell slots, and you can prepare 3 spells. And you can change your prepared spell list on a long rest. Preparing a new list, casting as a ritual. Basically, it still takes 10 minutes, nothing new here. You use your spell slots for your for your Spirit Guides feature. We'll get to that. So, I want you to take special note of this right here. When you do so, choose a number of Shaman ritual spells equal to half of your Shaman level rounded up. That means that if you're at level 1, you can only have 2 spells. And the only time you'll ever get an additional spell is level 5. Meaning, for 5 levels, you are stuck with 2 spells that you can swap out every day. Now that sounds terrible, yes. Meaning that this caster essentially has 2 spells that it can cast infinitely every day. Which sounds good. It sounds good, but then you also gotta remember, this is a full caster. And it only has access to another feature that allows them to use their spell slots. You cannot use your spell slots for your ritual spells. And I know what you're going to say. But Brooke, yes you can. If the spell has the ritual tag and it has a casting time, you can use a spell slot. Yes, you can. However, here, when we get into it, you're going to see that the next feature that we get, it states that your ritual spells can only be used as ritual spells. You cannot use your spell slots for them. So let's get into it. So, spell slots. The Shaman table shows how many spell slots you have to cast spells granted by your spirit guide for channeling. To cast one of these spells of first level or higher, you must expend a spell slot, expending a spell slot when you finish a long rest. So notice what it says here. The Shaman table shows how many spell slots you have to cast the spells granted by a spirit guide. No other spells. Right there, that is saying that those 2 spells that you get from preparing your ritual spells right over here, you cannot use your spell slots for. Cannot. I know what you're saying, why would you want to when you can ritual cast them for free and don't expend a spell slot? Well, in an emergency when you don't have 10 minutes and you really need that spell, casting it with a spell slot is typically more advantageous if you have the resources to expend and you really need it. Otherwise, ritual cast. But in this case, you don't have that option. You either ritual cast it or you don't cast it at all. And also, most of your cantrips, for whatever reason, I believe also have the ritual tag. A little bit strange. Also, you're a charisma caster. It's weird because the bard, the sorcerer, for whatever reason, the warlock, they're all charisma casters. And the cleric, the druid, and that's it. Oh, I also forgot the paladin's a charisma caster. So yeah, literally only the cleric and the druid are wisdom. Ranger 2, technically, so we're going to lump them in too. So that's 3 wisdom for 4 charisma, and the only 2 intelligence are artificer and wizard. It's a little bit strange that you wouldn't go for wisdom, seeing that this is a spiritual matter and you don't really have to convince spirits all that much. If you're communing with them, yes, talking is considered a charisma check, but this is in the tradition of Native American culture, you have to be an elder or you have to be very old and wise. You have to spend years upon years communing with the nature spirits, going through separate rituals and gaining the wisdom in order to do this. So why thematically it is not a wisdom caster makes no sense. You also get a spellcasting focus, and it could be anything pretty much. And then these are all of the spells that you get as a shaman in terms of your unique spells. These are the ritual spells that you can cast once, twice, 3, however many times you want as a ritual. This is it. And most of these are pretty standard spells. A lot of them are not very good spells. And some of them are spells that Ross Leiser himself made, which I will go over in another episode. But to continue, we have medium. Now this is where you think spell slots would come in handy, but I'll show you why you're wrong. You're able to channel the spirits from the spirit world. Choose 2 spirit guides from the spirit guide selection. You can choose additional spirits at levels shown in the spirit guides column. Whenever you gain a level in the class, you can replace a spirit that you know with a different one. Whenever you finish a long rest, keep this in mind, whenever you finish a long rest, you conduct a ritual. And regardless of how you choose to contact them, you have to take 10 minutes out of that long rest to complete it. You can perform this ritual the same time you prepare ritual spells. While you channel the spirit guide, you gain the features and spells that the spirit grants. And each spell granted by a spirit guide counts as a shaman spell for you and can be cast using your spell slots, following the normal rules for spellcasting rather than only as a ritual, meaning that the spells you gain from your spirits can be casted as rituals or use spell slots, but yet your shaman spells cannot use your spell slots. Weird. And also, here's the weirdest thing. You pick 2 spirits, but yet it says here you can only channel 1. It says you can perform this ritual while you channel the spirit guide. Only 1. So you pick 2, but you can only have 1. And you can dismiss it as an action until you channel a new spirit by using this feature again, or until you die. The spirit guide returns to the spirit world whenever, and for you to choose channel again. At 2nd level, ritual spells take 1 minute instead of 10 minutes to cast. Pretty good. Ritual practice, this is your subclasses. We'll get to those in another episode. And that's just a section on role-playing a different spirit guide. They don't have to be animals or whatever, you could play them however you want. So See the Beyond, you always have See Invisibility prepared, and it doesn't count against the number of ritual spells you can prepare each day. Ability score improvement, cantrip versatility, at level 4. At level 5, you Call from Beyond, where you have Speak with Dead always prepared. At level 6, when you cast, it's called Spirited Ritual. Whenever you cast a Shaman Ritual spell, you can cast it at a level equal to your highest spell slot, and you still don't expend a ritual. You still not expend a spell slot when you use a ritual spell this way, and you can only use it once per long rest. So far, let's just get this out of the way. Your rituals have gone down from 10 minutes to 1. You've gotten 2 spells that are prepared at all times, because you've gotten See Invisibility, and you've gotten Speak with Dead. An ability score improvement, and now you can just cast a ritual spell using a higher level spell slot without expending it once per day. I don't know if there are any ritual spells, as to my knowledge. If there are, please leave them in the comments and I'll check them out. But as far as I am aware, there is not a single spell with the ritual tag that has benefits for casting it with a higher level spell slot. As far as I'm aware, maybe Detect Magic and it has increased range or duration, but that's about it. And it's only once per day. Only once. Which sucks. Ritual Potency. When you cast a 1st level ritual spell, you can cast it at 2nd level and you don't expend it. You don't expend a spell slot. And when you reach certain levels in this class, you get certain benefits. So once you reach 12th level, you can cast a 1st or 2nd level ritual spell. You can cast it as a 3rd level. And then once you reach 16th level in this class, when you cast a Shaman ritual spell of 3rd level or lower, you cast it as 4th level. And once you reach 20th level, the capstone, by the way, if you cast a Shaman ritual spell of 4th level or lower, it's automatically cast at 5th level without expending a spell slot. Again, don't know any ritual spell that gets better the higher spell slot you use, other than the homebrew ones you put in here. But again, if there are some in the official rules, please leave them in the comments and I'll check them out. Hasten Ritual, once per long rest. When you cast a Shaman Ritual spell, you can do so with its normal casting time, and you still don't expend a spell slot. So basically, you just get 1 free spell at 10th level. But it's only from your ritual spell list. Okay. Because remember, the spirit guide spells, they are treated as ritual spells, not shaman ritual spells. Those are two separate distinctions, rules as written. Because he has made a very clear distinction that the shaman ritual spells are the spell lists that the shaman innately has access to. The spell lists you gain from your spirit guides are a separate spell list, meaning they are treated as rituals. So, again, I don't know how useful this is. At 11th level, you get Improved Medium. You can perform the right to channel a new spirit guide whenever you finish a short or long rest. Okay, so it took you 9 levels to be able to channel a new spirit every short or long rest when it should have easily just been a 5th level feature. Instead of Speak with Dead. Okay. Step beyond, always have Etherealness prepared. Spirit Nexus at 18th level. When you perform the ritual to channel a new spirit guide, you can choose to channel 2 of your spirit guides simultaneously, gaining both benefits. And finally, at 20th level, you always have each ritual spell on the Shaman spell list prepared. See right there, the Shaman spell list. Prepared at all times, ignoring all the preparations per day. Additionally, you regain the use of your hastened ritual when you finish a short or long rest. So that one that allows you to cast a shaman ritual spell as its casting time instead of as a minute once per long rest, it's now once per short and long rest. Okay, let's go over why this is a terrible, terrible, terrible class. So, once again, I would like to point out here that this is your shaman spell list. And it says right here that you have spell slots for the spirit guide. And obviously charisma. And of course your spellcasting focus. But shaman ritual spells, meaning they have to come from the shaman list. So right here where it says you prepare a list of shaman ritual spells that are available for you to cast from the shaman spell list. Each spell, and then if you look down here, each spell granted by a spirit guide counts as a shaman spell, not a shaman ritual spell from the shaman spell list, but just as a shaman spell. And can be cast using your spell slots following the normal rules for spellcasting rather than only as a ritual. So, this can mean two things. One is how me and my associates interpreted it as was that the spell slots were only used for the spirit guide spells, nothing else. You couldn't use them for your shaman spell list, and that because they were considered separate spell lists, that was it. Your spell slots were essentially useless if your spirit guide ever went away. Or two, your shaman spell list and the spell list granted by your spirit guides are one and the same once you get them, meaning that you can cast your shaman ritual spells as rituals and only rituals, but then your spirit guides can use your spell slots or be ritual cast. But if they are ritual cast, they get all the same benefits as your normal shaman ritual spells, which does make it slightly better. But again, here's the issue. You can only prepare one spirit per long rest until you get to the point at 11th level where you can prepare them every short or long rest. So by the time you get to this level, which is level 1, you have to wait 10 levels in order to get a different spell. So let's just go down to the spells. So let's say you choose the Benevolent Spirit, which is kind of the healing and support spirit. But you're finding that your party doesn't really need healing. You can't just swap it. That's not possible. You can't just swap your spirit on the fly. You're screwed because you're stuck with that spirit. and that's it. Or let's say you're going with the 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 malevolent spirit, or the mischievous spirit, or one of the other support spirits that have control or fear or some other kind of condition spells. But a lot of the monsters you're fighting in this dungeon, because your DM doesn't have to tell you what monsters you're fighting, have immunity to these conditions. Now you have a useless spell list. Congratulations. And you can't change it until you take a long rest, until you get to 11th level, where you get to change it every short or long rest. So if you are between levels 1 and level 10, you as a shaman, you have to ask your dungeon master if they have a combat encounter planned and what they plan on fighting, just to be useful to your team. Because your spell list is locked in. But that's the same as clerics, I hear you saying. Or that's the same as druids, I hear you saying. Yes, but you want to know what the difference is. The druid and the cleric can prepare any spell from their spell list as they see fit. They can choose some healing, some support, some control, some damage, some everything. They could just pick and choose. But with the shaman, you're stuck with that spell list. You cannot just mix and match. You can't say, "Oh, well, I I really like the invisibility from the mischievous spirit. I like the healing capabilities from the benevolent spirit. I'm going to take some from the warrior spirit down there." No, you can't do that. Once you pick your spirit, you're done. That's it for a long rest. So, few issues that if Ross Leiser happens to be watching this, I would recommend changing. Getting rid of a lot of the spells that are just, or a lot of the features, I apologize. Get rid of a lot of the features that just say, you have this spell always prepared, and it can always be cast as a ritual. Get rid of them. Either get rid of them or make them all into a single feature and give the shaman the ability to, once per short or long rest, channel another spirit, whether they have access to it or not, and they can channel this until they take a long rest. Give them the ability to channel more spirits at an earlier level. Because doing the math, which I have done, a shaman at level 3 with any of these, any spirit, doesn't matter what they are, they have access to less spells than any other full caster. Which is not saying much, because the wizard already gets more spells than the shaman at level 1. But the fact that a shaman at level 3 has less spells and less spell diversity than any other caster, half caster even. This essentially has the same level of spell power as a half caster does, and it's a full caster. That's bad. And some of the spell lists, which we'll go over in another episode, are terrible. Absolutely terrible. They don't even include some of the better spells that are in official books, let alone any books that have come out since, that, as much as some people don't like them, the Critical Role books that have added very powerful spells and arguably very good spells for a lot of players to take, they don't offer them. Overall, the class, I would honestly, if this was on a S plus to F tier, this would be D tier. This would be down there with like modern barbarian, rogue. It's awful. It doesn't offer any flexibility to the team. It doesn't offer good benefits for any of the spell lists as a solo spell list. You can't change your spell list as often as you should be able to. You have access to a very limited selection of spells that you cannot change by any means. You have no way to pick and choose what spells you want from different spirits, because that's just not how the mechanics work. And on top of that, most of your features are once per long rest, or just trying to make the class better, and it's just too scared to give them good things early as opposed to later. It is already a weak full caster, and that's probably like the worst award you could be given. In a game where spellcasters reign supreme over marshals and halfcasters, why do you want to be the worst of the bunch? If Warlock is better than you, there's a problem. You are not a good spellcaster. But regardless, in the next episode, we will be going over all the spirit guides and their spell lists, what benefits they get, and how this works with the general theme of the shaman. If you guys like this video, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. And I will see you all in the next episode of Homebrew Review. Latest.